I am going to give you a look through my business suite. Now, yours may look a little different. Everybody's does tend to look just a little bit different, but I'm going to show you some of the basics so that you know your general way around things and what a few different things do. Now, if your business does have Meta Business Suite and you log in, it may look something like this. You'll have your Facebook and your Instagram profiles there. Usually you'll see the cover photo for your Facebook page, and that's how you make sure you're on the right one. If you're like me and have multiple, you could have quite a few sitting in here, all attached in different ways. This is Meta Business Suite. It is painful, it is not easy, it is not intuitive, and don't feel silly if you get lost, things aren't where you expect them to be. That's all of us every day, even those of us that have been doing this for years. So, don't feel bad. Ask questions. Go looking for stuff. Use the help files. Things move around here all the time as well. Different settings come into play. If you can't tell, it's not my favorite. Anyway, Meta Business Suite. Your homepage will generally have what it wants you to do to start with, which is create a post, reel, story. They're all fairly self-explanatory, so you can do that directly from here. You'll also see what they call a to-do list, which is your unread messages, comments, that kind of thing. Anything that might require your attention. They use a little bit of an algorithm for that. Weekly plan, if you've given yourself a plan or a goal within here, and I'll show you how to do that, then it will be there. Otherwise, I think it usually gives you the recommended tasks that most business pages should have. Of course, they want you to do ads because that's how they make money. So there is an ad section here and a section underneath that shows you your most recent posts. You'll see boost buttons there to boost those individual posts and use those as advertising if you want to. Now, going along the side here, which is your menu, you've got your notifications, again, similar to the to-do list, but it's for all of your accounts. I can see here for any of my accounts, not just No Grey Suits, for any of the accounts that I am on, I can see all of the notifications there. Ads Manager, again, we're not going to go into that today. Planner, this is where I tend to live. You can toggle between weekly and monthly view. My one's fairly empty because I tend to do more stuff for my clients than myself, but you can see what you have posted in the past or what you've got scheduled for the future. You can schedule up to 30 days in advance, which is really quite painful. It used to be a lot longer than that. I was quite busy on Instagram that week and really quiet that week. Again, my own stuff tends to get ignored a little bit, but you can see what you've posted. You can click on that and there is a story. You can see how many views, how many interactions, how it went, if anybody replied. Now I know it's a story because it's orange and it's got the little round circle bit. I sort of think of almost like a countdown because your stories don't last forever. So I think of that like a stopwatch or a countdown or something. That's just how I remember it. And then your green ones with a text box, your regular posts, not stories. You can see whether they've gone to Instagram or Facebook. Some will be to one, some will be to the other, some will be to both, depending on what you did there. Now I'm going to show you for now how to schedule a post. I'm not actually going to go right through to the end, but what you'll see is for the next 2 days, your current day and the day after, it usually tries to give you a recommendation on what time to post for those 2 days. So you can just select that time. I'm going to go back to week view. You can select that time and hit schedule. Schedule a post, a story, or a reel. You can hit schedule posts. It looks different to how you might be used to posting straight to a wall. I can see here post to, it can post to your groups, it can post to your pages that are within that business. There's where you add your photos or videos. So I'm just going to, there we go. Now you can do a little bit of editing because this one here was outside of the ratio they like. It's automatically pulled me into the editing section where you can crop. So I might go like that. You can crop it to any of those sizes. You can add a filter. It's got basic old filters. So if you're used to the new filters, they're not there. You can add text over the top. It's really tricky to use. You're limited by a short list and colors. Once you've added a piece of text, you can't actually edit it afterwards. You can only delete it and start again. I hate using it. Stickers, they're only the old school stickers. That's all we've got in there. I tend not to use that. One thing I do use is alt text. And if you haven't seen my video on alt text, here goes nothing. Go into ChatGPT and I will give you a link to what's called Alt Text Assistant. It is a public GPT that I built. I'm going to add that photo. There we go. Wait for it to upload. I'm going to upload it there. Give it a sec. Look at that. Do you want the name? Yes, please. Now it's going to rewrite it and include the name of the person. Now I'm going to copy and I'm going to pop that into my alt text there for screen readers. Even though on the apps we can go more than 10 photos for carousels, within Business Suite we cannot. If you are using Business Suite to schedule, you're stuck with 10 or under. You can customize the text for Facebook or Instagram. This is handy if, particularly for Facebook, you're wanting to make use of things such as send us a message or give us a call. Some of these buttons are only available for Facebook, and you generally won't use as many hashtags in your description for Facebook as you will for Instagram. I don't use any at all unless I totally forget and just copy and paste. You would put your Instagram and Facebook text in there. Again, it could be, you know, come along to this event. We're on Facebook, so I'm not going to put any hashtags there. I'm just going to copy and paste that over to there, and I'm going to go add in any hashtags that I want there. If you click the hashtag button, it'll also give you your recent hashtags that you've used, so you don't have to retype them. You do have emojis there as well, but I tend to not use that. I prefer to, if you're on a Windows computer, you can hit the Windows key and full stop or period, and your emoji list comes up, and then you've got your recently used or your most commonly used ones sitting there ready to go. Because we're scheduling, we can't add collaborators. There's a few things you can't do when you're scheduling versus posting on the spot. You can have the times slightly different for Insta and Facebook. You can restrict on Facebook who sees it. I don't like to because I'm putting it on Instagram as well anyway, which is public. You can add a location in here. So I might add Kellyville, New South Wales. And again, for Facebook, if I wanted to get messages, I would add that get messages button. Wait for the preview to change. There we go. Now I've got that send message button at the bottom of my post. I wouldn't use that on every single post because then it comes across as a bit salesy, which we try to avoid on every single post. But it is handy if it's something about an event and you want to chat to people about it. In that case, you would put a call to action in with your text. So you might say, send me a message below if you're keen to come along. Just using my Windows key and full stop to get my emojis up again. Then I would hit schedule, which I'm not going to do on this one because I don't want this post to go out. That is how you create a post. Creating a reel is a little different, so I'm just going to discard changes on that one. I'm going to use the schedule down the bottom this time and I'll create reel. If you're doing a video, don't use schedule post, use create reel. It is different. So add a video. Have I got any videos of me anywhere here? Probably not. Okay. Alright, let's go. No grey suits. How long's that one? There we go. Oh, there we go. And that's got me looking absolutely wonderful there. You got to wait for it all to upload. Again, add your captions in. It's posting to both the Facebook page and Instagram. But when you're doing it as a reel, you can't customize the caption for both. It's the same across both. You can choose the frame that you want as your thumbnail, or you can upload an image. Sometimes I'll upload an image if I can't get a good screenshot out of the reel, or if it's more of a B-roll style reel and I want to say what it's actually about. something like that. Other than that, I usually go with one of the ones that it selects along here. I normally look for a happy face and then check what the captions say to make sure. What does that one say? October is ADHD Awareness Month. I'm not actually going to post that one today, but that one's got a decentish smile so that it looks welcoming. Sometimes I'll actually choose a really bad one. Sometimes I'll choose a really bad one that makes people stop. So stop the scroll. If you do have, say, a reel that is an interview style reel, I've got some up there of when I do interviews with podcasts where I've got two people on the reel. I could add them as a collaborator just by looking for them. Captured by Kiri, for example. You've got to wait for it to upload before you can hit next. It's a little slow because I'm recording. There we go. Now we can hit next. If you've got a reel that isn't a talking reel, you can add some music to it. If it is a talking reel such as this one, you can still add some music, but then you've got to start playing around with your volumes. And on here, I find it a little tricky to do, so I don't tend to do that. We can have a quick go of it, unless they have actually taken away the ability to add it over the top in here. No, unless you've got a B-roll only video that has text over the top. That's not working at the moment. I love Meta so much. Sarcasm there. You can crop if you want to. You can go smart cropping, manual cropping. You should already be doing that prior to uploading. You can add some text over the top. It's very basic text, but the feature is there. If you want to add your text over the top of your B-roll, you can do it like that. So you don't have to use an external editor and then bring it in. You can just bring your video in. You can put your audio in here, crop it, add your text over the top, add some background to the text, play around with the size of it. You can also do audio optimizations. This is quite nice if you haven't used an external editor and you want to remove some background noise, or you want to normalize or equalize the audio so that you don't have a whole heap of jumps up and down in audio. For some clients, I automatically do this because I know their voice sounds better with this. Try it with it off. And you'll find that it does make a bit of a difference there. So you can play around with that. And then you would hit next. Now, this is where you can schedule. Be wary, even if you hit schedule back in the first page, by the time you get to here, Meta has conveniently forgotten that you wanted to actually schedule this, even though you clicked on the time and day, and it automatically says share now. And if you hit share thinking, oh, I don't have to change anything in there because I don't want to add a poll or add it to a playlist or share it to groups, and even though it told you you couldn't do things before because you were scheduling, not sharing now, it's forgotten it now. You have to hit schedule again, otherwise it will go out right now. And if you've got to go back and delete it, it's painful. So again, you can allow remixing, you can add to a playlist. I find that handy for some clients, say a financial planning client who might have different categories like superannuation, aged care planning, investing, just so that things are a little bit categorized. That is only on their Facebook page, but it's nice. Now, a lot of people will say don't just share your reels to your stories, but quite honestly, if you're not doing anything else on stories, and this is all people are going to see on your stories ever, do it. So, yeah, it's not the most ideal thing in the world, but it's okay. And then you just hit schedule on that one there. You will see anything that you've got in future in here. Now, where else you'll see your content is in the next drop down, which is content here. So we already saw these before. You saw them on the home page. These are the most recent posts. This is anything that's scheduled in. I should have nothing in there at the moment unless there's a few. Yep, failed to publish. That's common. You will find sometimes reels fail to publish to Instagram. You can republish them from here if you want to. Most of the time I'll end up doing that manually. If you've got any drafts sitting here, they'll be in there. But this is where you can start to have a little bit of a look at some of your analytics. It's not super in depth, but you can have a quick glance through and go, oh, that post did really well. I might do something else like that. Or, you know, oh, there's a bunch of comments there and I didn't actually see them come through. I didn't get a notification for that. I need to check those comments to make sure that they're not spam or not rude or offensive, anything like that. You should always be checking on your comments. Then you can have a look at just what your highlights are. These are your highlights folders that you'll see across the top in Instagram. They did take it away for a little while and then put it back. Anything that's archived, you can also add back into your highlights. If you forgot to add something to highlights, but it would be perfect for it, you should be able to add it into a highlight. Nope, we can delete it. You can from the phone. You can, from your phone, you can add it into a highlight. It's only saying I can delete, not add to a highlight. But anyway, you can do some A/B testing, but we won't go into that today. Have a look at any mentions, any clips that people might have pulled. This is where you can see any playlists that you might have put together over here. I don't use most of this. I generally only use the posts and reels bit. And then there's your insights, which is your analytics. We'll go through that in a bit more detail on another day, but feel free to jump in and have a bit of a play around. You can't really break anything in here. You're just having a look at things. If you do want to go in and have a bit of a play around with that. Your inbox is very similar to your notifications. Lead center we won't use today, but it is where if you do have any forms on Facebook or Instagram and you've filled those out to get a lead magnet or something in the past for somebody, that's where they end up for those people. They end up in the lead center, which is almost like a CRM built into here. If you do manage multiple pages, you will see them either as different business portfolios or as different assets under yours. In there, you've also got your settings down the bottom in your settings cog, which goes into all of your exact settings, who's got control of what. You may not be able to get into that depending on your access levels, but if you need somebody to give you access, this is where they would do that. They need to go into Meta and go down to that settings section. Generally, they'll either add you as people or add you as a partner, depending on how they've got theirs set up and what their preferences are and what access you need. That is the real basics of Meta Business Suite, showing you most of what I use it for. I tend to ignore a lot of it, and I tend to try and do things either through the phone or the actual pages themselves where I can, just because I find this clunky. It doesn't give you all the same features that you can get by doing it on the phone or on the page itself, but it is good for scheduling out content in advance. Scheduling on the phone can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Drafts on the phone for Instagram, for instance, are quite tricky as well because it saves all drafts on your phone's memory. So if you've got a bunch of reels in drafts for multiple clients or even just for one client, it actually takes up space on your phone. And some of those files can be quite large. I try to hold off on doing that where possible. But I hope that helps. I'll probably end up doing more on this at some point, but that was just a quick introduction so that you can get to know your way around and how to schedule a post or a reel in here. Hope that helps. Take care.